So a point I made at the start of this series is that dialogue is almost a necessity if you want to have an actual, coherent story that's not just, the bare minimum. The last LEGO game that TT Games made without voice acting was LEGO Harry Potter Years 5 through 7. If you know the Harry Potter lore, you'd probably know that the latter half of the Harry Potter series gets a bit complicated, hard to follow maybe. So as a game without voice acting, did they do a good job adapting the story? Not very well, unless you knew the story already, and even then it might be hard to parse through. So in the end, yes, I support the decision to pivot towards voice acting in the games. Now, lucky for LEGO Batman 2, it's based on a direct-to-DVD movie that came out around the same time. So basically, the voice acting was already done for the game, for the most part. The story follows Batman and Robin as they try to thwart a Joker and Lex Luthor team-up. Lex Luthor believes the Joker's laughing gas could somehow help him be elected for president. Batman initially rejects the help of Superman before eventually accepting after the Joker and Lex infiltrate the Batcave. Other Justice League members show up. There's a giant Joker robot that you deal with for what feels like half the story, blah, blah, blah. The story sucks. Usually I wouldn't care, but since this is just an adaptation of a bargain bin movie, I feel somewhat offended. I don't know. But when I first played this game, I didn't know that it was based on a movie. And seeing how this game's story is longer than the movie's runtime of a whopping 1 hour and 11 minutes, it makes sense as to why you're fighting the same giant Joker robot for the last 6 out of 15 levels. Also, Lex Luthor is so insanely dumb. From what we knew of Lex Luthor in the Superman mythos, he was a calm, smart, conniving man. In no situation would he ever consider an alliance with the Joker, possibly the most unpredictable person in the DC universe. Also, does he really think laughing gas would get people to vote for him? I think his secretly sinister charm would probably get him farther on the ballot. There's really no need to attempt the most elaborate voter fraud scheme of all time. And constructing a robot the size of Optimus Prime that looks suspiciously like the Joker, hair and all, is not exactly what I would call subtle. So, yeah, TT Games, stick to adapting movies that are actually good. I beg you. Now, I don't know if Cillian Murphy watches my videos. I'd wager not, but you never know. So, Mr. Murphy, if you're watching, I wish Scarecrow was higher. I really do. But in LEGO Batman 1, he just had mind control, which isn't an ability in this game, which leaves him with nothing. Okay, Cillian Murphy, you can click off if you so choose. Anyway, Scarecrow is really just in the roster for the courtesy on behalf of TT Games. Something I'd like to talk about is how a lot of these Batman villains are unlocked. There are a ton of vehicle pads throughout the open world, one for each district, we'll call them. These vehicle pads are initially highlighted with a red beacon, which turn blue when you activate them. In addition, a villain will be revealed within the district of the vehicle pad you activated, and you can go find them and fight them. The boss fights are all the same, basically. Either they jump and smash down onto you, or they do flips if they're acrobatic. The fights take maybe 20 seconds, tops. But Scarecrow was unlocked in the theme park, within a giant jack-o'-lantern. Not all of the villain locations are thematically appropriate, but Scarecrow is one of the few exceptions. Also, Scarecrow looks identical to how he looked in LEGO Batman 1, mostly because Scarecrow hadn't shown up in any new LEGO sets at the time, but I like this look on Scarecrow, for nostalgia, if nothing else. Raz Al Ghoul. That's how I'm pronouncing it. Not Raish, Raz. I pronounced his name Ra's al Ghul in the LEGO Batman 1 series, but I'm not doing that this time. As someone who doesn't know a lick of Arabic, I consulted the internet and found that Raz is the closer to correct. Playing the Arkham games, I got a little too used to saying Raish, but I'm working to change that. Also, I don't say this guy's name very often, so bear with me. Raz Al Ghul was also featured in a Nolan Batman film, coincidentally the same one as Scarecrow, the guy we just covered. Now, unfortunately, Raz Al Ghul still doesn't have much going for him. In LEGO Batman 1, he was unlocked by finding every mini-kit throughout all the levels. And really, the only thing going for him was a fast tightrope walk. Yeah, and he doesn't even have that anymore. But he gets a cape in return, so good for him, I guess. Oh, and also a sword. He only had batons in LEGO Batman 1. His sword is pretty cool, and also the reason why he's ranked above everyone else thus far. At least he has a weapon. We've finally reached an ability. Well, not really, but kind of. This guy has a gun, and Commissioner Gordon, his boss, doesn't. Make of that what you will. Thankfully, LEGO Batman 2 did the same thing with law enforcement characters as they did with the goons in comparison to LEGO Batman 1. As in, they didn't go too crazy with it. In LEGO Batman 1, there was the police officer, SWAT guy, security guard, police marksman, really just all synonyms for essentially the same thing. This time around, it's just Policeman. I don't even think they needed this guy in the roster still, but it's still preferable over what we got in LEGO Batman 1. The first ability in this game that I'm presenting with Policeman is technically not an ability the Policeman has, but it's close enough to talk about it. The Policeman kind of has the target ability. He can shoot things from afar. I say technically because some characters with ranged weapons can't aim directly at what they want to shoot, like they can in later LEGO games. Policeman has no such crosshairs, nor does any character with the target ability. But you can spam the shoot button and spray bullets that are just barely faster than your run speed, so I guess that's something. To be honest, it's a little surprising to see Huntress in this game. Don't get me wrong, I like Huntress, and I'm primarily referring to her depiction in Justice League Unlimited when I say this. But referring to her justifiability as a character in this game, I really can't say. Based on the inclusion of Huntress and a few other characters in this game that I can't disclose yet, I'd say someone on the developer team for LEGO Batman 2 really is a fan of Justice League Unlimited. And hey, it was a pretty good show, but that being said, where is Green Arrow? In Justice League Unlimited, Green Arrow played a pretty substantial role in the show as the newcomer to the team. But Green Arrow isn't in this game, especially since people do tend to associate Green Arrow with the Justice League, which is kind of the biggest selling point in this game. But hey, Green Arrow isn't the focus of this segment, it's Huntress. As you can probably see, she also holds a ranged weapon, but unlike the Policeman, she has her iconic crossbow. Again, you can't aim, which is a huge disappointment, especially since a slightly different ability we'll see soon can actually aim. But all in all, despite my qualms about Green Arrow, I think it's pretty neat to include Huntress, a character I wouldn't have bet to be on this roster if I didn't already know. So I have a little confession to make. I know I made a big deal about there only being 4 goons in this game, but technically Lex Bot here also should count as a goon. He's unlocked the same way as the other goons, and they're the standard enemy you fight in a few of the story levels in this game, specifically the ones involving meddling with Luthor technology. So yeah, they're robot goons, sure, but at least they are not called the Lex Goons. Then I would have no excuse. But then again, Lexbot dual wields blasters and doesn't need to resort to his metal fists to fight enemies, which would still probably hurt more than human goon fists. In a world where automation threatens the workforce in every industry, TT Games is once again not sending a good message to kids. Oh, you want to start a criminal empire? Consider investing in a goon force of robots. Cheaper in the long run, low turnover, and more effective. I'm kidding, of course. I'm kidding. Don't start a criminal empire. And also, there's no way an army of Lexbots is cheaper than a regular human troop of criminals. But Lexbot wielding the blasters works just about as good as someone with only one ranged weapon. Maybe the 2 guns output a slightly faster rate of fire. At least it feels like it. And, that's all I need. For a guy who got the honor of getting a goon to represent him in this game, it is a surprise to see him this low on the list. The other guys with goons at least get a little something extra to make them worth more for 100% completing the game. TwoFace, as I said in his goon segment, got a completely revamped look from LEGO Batman 1 to LEGO Batman 2 because of the LEGO DC Revival of 2012. In LEGO Batman 1 and in the 2007 set, Two-Face's look was based on Two-Face from Batman the Animated Series, while the much more colorful 2012 version was based on the Tommy Lee Jones portrayal of Two-Face in Batman Forever. I think initially I was pretty adverse to the 2012 Two-Face, but I think that was just because of nostalgia for the 2007 version, and this was just a huge change. Over time, though, I think the 2012 version grew on me. Both versions are respectable, though. You see Two-Face in 2 instances in the story. You first fight him briefly in the introductory mission, and then you see him again in the Arkham Asylum Antics level, where he drives his truck in a maze. Impeccable driving on his part, though. Those are some tight turns. Two-Face still wields dual pistols, which hasn't changed from LEGO Batman 1. He lost his toxin immunity, though, which I guess makes sense because only half of his body would be immune, right? I'll be honest, I didn't expect for this guy to be invited. Like, I'm not disappointed that he's at the party, but like, I didn't think he was friends with anyone that would be at the party, you know? He seemed like he could be easily cut from the game, and he's still a relatively new villain to the Batman mythos. Hush was in LEGO Batman 1 and was unlocked by saving all citizens in peril. How was he unlocked in this game? Oh, just fight him on the roof of the hospital or something, which is shaped like a cross, which is just so tacky. Anyway, Hush is identical to Two-Face in weapon choice, the dual pistols, and it's pretty clear that he's roster filler. In LEGO Batman 1, he had a slightly faster build speed, which is rendered useless if you already had the fast build extra, which in that game you probably did at that point. In this game, though, Hush doesn't have that fast build ability, but it's very possible that in this game you can unlock Hush before the fast build extra, so you definitely could have given Hush the fast build buff here. Yet another missed opportunity by TT Games. And I thought Huntress was a weird addition. Captain Boomerang? Why this guy? Now, for the base game, excluding the DLC, the developers typically included at least one villain that is associated with each of the other Justice League members that show up in this game. I think this was supposed to be the villain that goes with the Flash. Captain Boomerang typically goes up against the Scarlet Speedster, but I feel like there are at least 3 villains that would be better suited to be dubbed Flash's villain in the base game. In the DLC, they added 2 more Flash villains, but still left out the main one? Are you kidding? Whatever. I'll get to them whenever I do, and I'll talk about it then. But Captain Boomerang just seems like a total out-of-nowhere pick. But he does bring something new to the table. Remember when I talked about Huntress and said that there is a similar ability to the ranged weapons that can aim? Well, here it is. I'm calling it the Boomerang ability. Basically, you hold down the action button and a triangular crosshair shows up. You can target several objects and you'll hit them all one after the other. Throughout the open world where you go gold brick hunting, there are quite a few gold bricks where you have to bust several identical items that are lined up within a certain amount of time. The Boomerang was designed specifically for those gold bricks. You can target them all and take them all down in one fell swoop. Those were some of the easiest gold bricks in the game, and you can thank Captain Boomerang for that. Hey, it's Alfred. He's way farther up in the ranking than I expected, so much so that I forgot he was even in the game. But he has a pretty good reason to be up this high this time. In LEGO Batman 1, Alfred had no abilities, but he held such gracefulness with his combat and jump animations. I made a big point on that, and I stand by it, even though I hyped it up so much just to stretch out the segment at the time. This time, well, I dare say, I think he's been training in between games. That dog. He seems less eloquent with his movements, sure, but he seems to have more pep in his step. Also, Alfred here just might be Captain America in disguise. He's using that platter like an absolute pro. And also, if Alfred does have an ability this time around, if the platter comment didn't tip you off, Alfred has his version of the Boomerang. I'm labeling it Boomerang because it functions the exact same as one. You can hit multiple things with one throw. And the fact that it's Alfred doing it makes me want to choose him when I need to get those gold bricks for hitting those multiple items in a small interval of time. Well, there's others I would choose before Alfred that we haven't seen yet, of course, but at least I'd choose Alfred over Captain Boomerang. here is actually the first DLC character that we're covering in this series. I honestly had no idea this game had 2 DLC character packs until a few years after its release. I'm going to do an introductory segment on the DLC for this game a little later on in a future part, so I want to reserve most of what I have to say for that. But to give you a little taste of what I think, I'm not a fan. But hey, let's leave the DLC out of this. Let's just focus on the character at hand. This is Katana, yet another Suicide Squad member. There are more characters in this game outside of Katana and Captain Boomerang that can be considered Suicide Squad members, so I wonder if that was on purpose. Anyway, Katana here. Man, I cannot get over her hair. This hairpiece is what I call the hag hairstyle. Like, only the most decrepit of witches would have this hair. Not Katana. Come on. The rest of her design is fine, though. Nothing too special, but at least not horrendous. Like her hair. She holds a katana, go figure, and has a new ability to the series. I mentioned it in the Mad Hatter segment, but agility is back, and Katana is our first character of several to have it. Walls that can be interacted with agility characters are pretty obvious. It's a blue and white checkered pattern that sticks out like a sore thumb in the open world, but that's another topic I want to save for yet another introductory segment, so I'll save my thoughts on that. Agility characters, though, such as Katana, can jump from these walls and swing on poles and jump slightly higher, but I mean, that's all I can say for Katana.